And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick alongside Alix Steel. And here to help take us through the closing bell, it's our global simulcast. We're joined right now by Scarlet Fu in our newly revamped Studio 2 here in the Bloomberg World headquarters. Meanwhile, Tim Stenovec and Carol Massar, they're still in that old radio booth.
You know
but we still love them more than anything else. As we welcome our audiences across all of our Bloomberg. I got a whole script here to read, Tim Stenovec and Carol Massar, but I'm done. Go ahead.
Old can be good, you know. Sometimes even better.
I just wanted to make sure I was in the right place.
Yeah.
I also want to say congratulations on just a fantastic relaunch.
He's so nice.
Thank you. I worked really hard on this. Every weekend I was in here hammering everything together.
Yeah, working on the big screens behind you, right?
It's a lot of work.
Big
should have seen him in his overalls.
Did you compose the music too, Romaine?
Yeah.
I do like it.
Did his overalls have a flower? That's all I want to know.
Yes. We'll go with yes. It's all fictional. Yes, they do, Carol.
That makes me so happy. All right, should we talk about the markets?
If you must.
What's going on today?
AI for the rest of us, Carol.
Yeah,
That's
AI.
what's going on today.
All in on AI. Although Apple shares right a little bit lower, guys.
Yeah, all in on AI.
Well, that's because Apple doesn't have its own AI, right? It's linking up with all these other companies.
Does anybody have its own AI? Is it
Yeah,
all
Anthropic does. OpenAI does. Google's doing a pretty good job. Meta Platforms, you could argue, has its own with Llama.
And NVIDIA makes money no matter what.
That's right.
Okay, well, that's a good deal. When does this translate to Apple, though? Am I supposed to run out and buy an iPhone because of what they said today?
Yeah, maybe an iPhone 15 Pro or the next iteration of the iPhone, which I'm guessing is going to be called the iPhone 16, Romaine.
Okay, I'll put that on my calendar for, I don't know, what is it, 2045? All right, we get the closing bells here in New York. Green day across the screen, though the gains are relatively incremental. You're looking at a Dow Jones Industrial Average up more than 70 points on the day, or about 0.2%. The S&P 500 up about 14 points, or 0.3%, while the Nasdaq Composite looking to close out the day right now as we wait for these numbers to settle higher by about 59 points, or 0.4%. You saw a little bit more action here in the cyclical space here. Dow Transport's up about 0.9%, and the Russell 2000 going to close out the day higher by 5 points, or 0.25 percentage point.
All right, interesting, guys. Back to the S&P 500. 280 names to the upside right now. 221 losing some ground today, so not quite an even split. And two that are unchanged, Scarlett.
Yeah, let's take a look at the industry groups. This is, of course, IMAP, which shows you which sectors are in the green, which sectors are in the red. You've got utilities, and Alix, this is, of course, Constellation Energy, Vistra, which you've been talking about for a while now, gaining 1.25% as a group. Energy in second place, and communication services up by 0.6%. The laggards here are financials, consumer staples, and materials, but they're not falling by a whole lot.
All right, guys, let's get to some of the individual gainers, if I may, on this Monday. Southwest up at its highs, 9.4% to the upside, finishing the day with a 7% gain, up the most since about November of 2020. The Wall Street Journal did report earlier in the day that Elliott Investment Management built an almost $2 billion stake in the U.S. carrier, so investors certainly taking note of this one. The report saying that the size of the holding makes the activist firm one of the largest investors in the company, and that Elliott plans to engage with management. So stay tuned on that one.
Did you see one of my favorite stories is on the terminal is about how Elliott is basically canceling the summer for a lot of CEOs as they taking all these activist stakes here. I'm sure all these CEOs are like, darn.
Tough stuff. It's tough stuff.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's why they get paid the big bucks. Exactly.
They
don't have to work during the summer?
They could just put it on.
Have you met,
They can still have these combos from the Hamptons.
Yeah. Have you ever met any of these CEOs, Tim?
Whoa.
No comment.
No comment, yeah. All right, Constellation Energy. I think, Scarlett, you brought this one up. Finishing up pretty much near its highs of the days, up about 8.5%. This one, a top name, the number one gainer in the S&P 500. Utilities outperformer, BMO analyst James Thalacker saying he continues to see this company as uniquely positioned to continue to leverage its intrinsic and expanding extrinsic value, given the scale of its carbon-free asset portfolio and commercial capabilities. So reiterating its outperform rating on the stock, $248 price target, which is a fair amount of upside because the stock closing just under $215 a share. CrowdStrike, also one that was popping up. It's the second top performer in the Nasdaq 100, finishing the day with a gain of more than 7%. CrowdStrike, GoDaddy, KKR, all of them higher in the session as it was confirming that these stocks would join the S&P 500 in the latest quarterly weighting change. So some movement there in the index. All right, Tim, over to you.
Okay, you can probably guess that my first decliner today is going to be Apple. Worth checking in on shares as the Worldwide Developers Conference, WWDC, gets kicked off today. It's going to last the entire week, but the big news made today, shares finished today down by 1.9%. The company did announce long-awaited new AI features, including tools supported by ChatGPT. The idea is it's going to bring technology that's personalized, safe, and deeply integrated into the software of the company. It's going to summarize text, create original images, retrieve the most relevant data when users need it. We'll see, though, if it does prompt hardware upgrades. Investors did give that tepid reaction to the news, which not so uncommon when Apple does debut long-anticipated new features. Also, shares of AMD taking a hit today. This after Morgan Stanley downgraded the company to equal weight from overweight, saying investor expectations for the AI business, quote, seem too high. Shares falling by 4.5% today. Analyst Joseph Moore saying that AMD products are likely to win share in the client and server CPU markets this year. High expectations for its AI business don't leave room for much upside. Finally, checking in on shares of Celsius, which fell on the day today to its lowest level going back to February. Analysts again citing reports of continued decelerating trends in Nielsen's latest report that was issued today. Shares falling by more than 9%. The stock down more than 30% from its March 14th
This is the energy drink maker?
It's the energy drink, yeah.
One of my producers, she just drank like 3 cans of this right before the show.
What?
That's why she's talking so loudly in our
Is that
ear
a
today.
regular thing?
Yeah, apparently. I don't know.
No, it's just for launch day.
I'll be honest, I've never had Celsius, but it's extremely popular. I see people drinking it everywhere. The stock has been gangbusters for years, but recently, these trends reports from Nielsen say there are some downward trends. Inventory changes made by PepsiCo, which distributes Celsius, but also softer sales trends are a concern.
All right, let's go to the bond market because it is quite interesting to take a look at it. If you look at the long end, you saw selling all across the board. You had a 3-year auction that was pretty tepid, and you really had to increase the yield in order to get people to come in and buy. The front end might be a little bit different, but you're looking at, say, the 30-year up by about 3 basis points. But it all really hinges on what happened in Europe, guys, and the sell-off in the bond market, particularly in France and some of the peripheral countries like Spain and Italy, as Emmanuel Macron called some parliamentary elections after European Parliament had a little shake-up there. So we'll see about any kind of follow-through selling as well. Carol.
All right. And do we want to just mention quickly this headline? Apollo Incandescent in talks for a joint bid for DXC technology. So this is coming from Reuters. So it looks like a joint bid just coming on. We were just talking a little bit about M&A space and some stuff going on. So we'll see. Maybe some deal flow.
Yeah, we saw those shares spike right at the close here, up about 11% here. And then, of course, adding to that now here in after hours trading, Scarlet. And maybe this is sort of a sign that maybe the M&A market is opening up and the IPO market could open up as well. We had news earlier today that StubHub might be ready to go public as soon as next month.
Yeah, we'll be waiting for that. And of course, the bankers are waiting in earnest for that. There's a lot of dry powder that needs to be put to work. And the only question is, what's going to happen with the economy? There's so much uncertainty, and of course, so much hinges on how the Federal Reserve positions its view of the economy come Wednesday.
You're so close to me
go ahead,
now.
Romaine.
Like I can just
Oh my God! Look, there you go.
Your shot now. It's like normally they have us spread out so far, and now Alex is right here. It's
Yeah,
like
no, we can
could
read
just
your
lock
emails, man.
arms
This
and
is the
read my
end of
emails.
COVID.
This
Do we
is
have
the
to
end
turn
of
this
COVID.
car
So how am I supposed to
around?
talk about trash about Alex live on
great
set
shot.
now?
After, or on your phone. That's
My
fair.
phone.
Yeah, right? Why not, Tim?
You know, it was
Help
a big
us.
deal in this studio when I moved from the chair that was far away from Carol to the chair actually next to Carol. It was
I
a
wasn't
sign,
so sure I
you know,
wanted that to happen.
the
but it
pandemic
happened.
that we were
I'm just
vaccinated.
kidding. I'm kidding.
It happens.
Don't worry, you guys are next.
Guess what, guys? It's time to go ahead and eat your Krispy Kreme, or at least this is according to a Truist analyst. Upgrading the stock, Krispy Kreme, which actually was up about 6.5% in today's session. Upgrading it to buy from hold, reversing their October downgrade on the stock. Basically saying the overhang from the drugs known as GLP-1s is already here and fully reflected in the stock's current valuation. So it's time. Yeah, we know we want to eat healthy, but it's, we like our sweets, so it's time to have
Already
a donut.
here, meaning like it's already been priced in or
That's
something?
what they are saying.
That's pretty impressive. What's not here currently is a mountain pass. This was an incredible story, guys. I don't know if you saw the video, but a huge chunk of a mountain pass road collapsed between Idaho and Wyoming. And this is also in our interest here because it's near Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which is where the Fed meeting takes place in August. This will not impact that meeting because you have to go on the other side. But the Rocky Mountain Summit, if you ever have to go there for one of their summits, you'll have to go around, take an extra hour plus, or fly into a different airport. And the question is, how does that even happen? how does that just fall down? And how do you fix that in a timely manner?
Alex, nature is undefeated.
It is.
Or our infrastructure is not so great.
That's what I was going to go
we got to
with.
prop it up.
That's what I was going to go
Did you
with.
notice that Alex brought it back to the Fed?
I know.
It always goes
We're
back.
Very
Bloomberg,
loose,
man.
but
It always goes
you gotta
back
love
to
the
the
effort, though, right? You know what this means? It means that somebody's expense report is going to show a lot of helicopter rides on it.
Exactly.
Come August.
Yeah, Mike McKee.
Well, you guys are looking darn good all
Thank you
together. We
very
kind of
much.
love that. Really, really nice. All right. Well, congratulations. And then we will see you again tomorrow. Same place, same bat channel, as they say.